Long live! Comrade Secretary General, Comrade Dina Pule, I want to say to you that I wish to begin by congratulating the Baleka Mbete Foundation and the ANC Women's League for putting together such a wonderful occasion. I wish to say to our first Deputy Secretary General that when I attended the Ngoba rally before the 2024 elections, I did what I always do at the Ngoba. I looked in the direction of the Women's League benches, and I was very worried because there were empty chairs, and I knew ANC is in trouble. Today, as I see the ANC Women's League gathered in this hall, I believe it is possible in 2029 that we will get a majority. As long as the benches of the ANC Women's League are full at Ngoba, we will be there. So allow me to begin this privilege I have been granted of a lecture celebrating in tribute the life of Mayor Gertrude Shope. I titled it, Bearing the Burdens of History with Dignity and Courage. I wish to begin by recognizing our leadership, our former Deputy President Baleka Mbete, members of the Shope family, our first Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Nomvula Mokonyane, members of the African National Congress National Executive Committee, Mbogoto, I cannot not do this, Dr. Dlamini Zuma, great respect. The National Executive Committee members of the ANC Women's League, provincial leadership of the Gauteng African National Congress, Comrade is present here with us, Comrade Hope, public representatives representing the African National Congress at all spheres of government, leaders in government, particularly members of the Executive Council of Gauteng, distinguished guests, comrades, ladies and gentlemen. It is truly an honor and a privilege to have been asked to speak at this event by the organizers of this celebration of Mayor Gertrude Shope's life. Ma Shope lived in exile from 1966 to 1990. She was a leading force in the women's movement, having led the ANC delegation to the National Women's Meeting in Nairobi, Kenya, and worked tirelessly for the World Federation of Trade Unions. She served importantly as secretary to Mam Florence Mposho and helped Ma Florence to establish the publication of the newsletter Voice of Women. These were multifaceted leaders. They were not dimensional, not one-dimensional by any means. Ma Shope was born in Johannesburg in 1925 and grew up in Zimbabwe, trained as a teacher like myself, and taught in Natal. Mayor Gertrude Shope was a leader who was destined to constantly live with turbulence. This reality was her fate, notwithstanding her incredible, dignified presence, stature, and calm demeanor. She had a look which stressed, I can cope with whatever is sent my way. That is the kind of strength that is urgently necessary today. Her country, South Africa, is confronting its most testing national and geopolitical stresses. The constraints posed by a changed government and attitude in the United States of America, by a diminishing multilateralism, by a rather weakened and directionless Europe, by a China that has to look inward to gain strength, and by an Africa still searching for its essential being. All of these place South Africa in a situation in which keen intellect and bold resolve should be preeminent. Shope would have felt compassion for her leaders of the ANC in this tense period, but she would have also urged leaders to be bold as she was in becoming a cadre for freedom in an era where women were not expected to enter the battlefield. She would have reminded African leaders that in moments of significant tension and stress, the critical imperative is to find your center. She would have exclaimed that this is Africa's moment. Expand agriculture, ensure food security, unite Africa, implement the African Continental Free Trade Area, implement Agenda 2063, and build the Africa we all want. Protect and harness the value of Africa's natural resources. Skill our Africans. Provide a vibrant, progressive political ideology for Africa's youth, and make them a fit resource for Africa's emancipation. As with many of her generation, Shope would have been dismayed at our faltering progress. She was a keen observer of the progress of our country in the 30 years of our democracy, and noted advances which I sometimes had opportunity to discuss with her. Advances in education, in science, in innovation and technology, advances in growing our international trade, and in improved access to basic social services. Sadly, she also knew of the corruption that has dragged revolutionary morality of our leaders down. She was aware of our failures at local government level and of the inadequate capacity to serve, which is prevalent in our public service. She was keenly aware of the decline of her beloved organization, the African National Congress. Decline not just in electoral outcomes, but also in the ability to maintain the essential character of as a leader of society and as a reflection of political values that constitute commitment to serve the people. She was probably very worried at leaders who place themselves above the organization and hack away at its revolutionary traditions. She would have welcomed the initiative of a national dialogue as a step towards strengthening social cohesion and as a platform for creating a foundation for unity of purpose and shared resolve among all South Africans. Mashope understood the complexities of leadership and continued to offer sage advice on our democracy very late into her well-lived life. She never said, "I am now old, I am tired, I have nothing to say." She was active right until the end. Active and aware. The accolades that are recorded about May Gertrude Shope indicate her humble beginnings and her maturing into becoming a national leader in South Africa. She stood up courageously to combat apartheid, mirroring the women of Gaza in her determination never to give up fighting for freedom and justice, and in her lasting contribution to ensuring women and all the oppressed in South Africa enjoy peace and democracy. She must have been proud of the decision adopted by South Africa's government in 2023 to boldly take up the genocidal conflict waged by Israel against the people of Palestine. Mashope understood international solidarity and the role it played in our own freedom struggle, and would surely have welcomed her government's concern at the plight of the people of the occupied Palestinian territories who suffer harm from apartheid Israel on a daily basis. She must have been appalled at Israel's assault on international law, of its government's commission of crimes against humanity, and surely proud at the millions in South Africa, including the Women's League, who stand on the right side of history. May Gertrude is one of the famous, courageous, bold women of August 1956. As a foremost leader of the Federation of South African Women, she was one of the leaders who led the process of organizing the historic Women's March to the Union buildings in this Pretoria. A march that was inspiring, impactful, and solidly well organized. Leaders of her caliber and of others in that period did not require accolades, ardent followers, or material gain to execute a revolutionary task. All they relied on was commitment, comradeship, hard work, and a firm belief that apartheid could be challenged and defeated. Some of our leaders, and you heard them in the documentary, relate stories of Mashope in exile, leading the efforts to build international solidarity against apartheid and providing significant political orientation for our young women activists and soldiers. Younger women speak of her sage advice, of her readiness to protect young women in the camps, and of her readiness to challenge the ANC to embrace women's equality. Upon her return to South Africa, her contribution to a solid women's movement became apparent through her willingness to lead a renewed, refreshed ANC Women's League. The Kimberley Conference was rescued by her strong will and political maturity and that of Mama Albertina Sisulu. In the course of our political negotiations on transitional measures, participants in the negotiations developed a strong respect for her due to her wise counsel and her ability to join in discussing complex political issues and in finding and suggesting solutions to them. Joining Parliament in 1994, she was a leading voice on subjects of human development, arts and culture, and progressive social welfare. In the ANC caucus, she was known as a stickler for keeping good time. She was never late to caucus. I was a whip, and I know that. She was known for speaking on important issues on children's protection and on enhanced social services for the formerly oppressed people of South Africa. I recall a meeting in which she argued that all South Africans, the oppressed and those who had not been oppressed but who need welfare, that all of them should be provided for. I remember these strong points she made in the caucus in the National Assembly. She lived non-racialism, engaging across the aisle with opposition members and encouraging their support for good policy. She never stood back and said, I'll only speak to ANC members. She spoke to all in the different parties. On matters of equality, she understood that the support of men was important to ensure progress. She famously said, when interviewed by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, and I quote, although we were fighting patriarchal stereotypes, we worked together with men. We did not say we are fighting against men, but that as one family, we need to fight together. This was a very progressive approach to the objective of achieving gender equality. Celebrating Mashope offers us a moment to recognize the strides in empowerment achieved by women in South Africa, in Africa, and throughout the globe. It is her pioneering role and that of her brave companions that created the foundation for the well-known progress to occur. If it were not for Mashope and her compatriots, we would not have 46% female public representatives in Parliament, nor would we have 50% of women in the national executive. If it were not for her and her comrades, we would not have women vice-chancellors at our universities, women leading corporates, women leading science institutes, and women leading important security organs. Our government was deeply honored when Mashope and her family agreed that the Department of International Relations and Cooperation could use her name for the renowned Gertrude Shope Annual Dialogue Forum. This is a platform for women across Africa to share experiences on conflict resolution, peace, and dialogue, and to develop skills to end conflicts and create solid foundations in their countries for reconstruction and development. The forum shared Mashope's skills of negotiation, of open and genuine discussion, and of effective incorporation of international law into national human rights practice. The forum sought to entrench the United Nations Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security, and it affirmed the global contribution of this great leader to ensuring that women are never peripheral or incidental. They are the brick that allows a wall that cannot be broken, a wall with corners that are global friendships of solidarity, walls that understand that humanity must stand united in the face of racism, fascism, chauvinist and toxic masculinity, and deliberate onslaughts on international law. Shope stood tall for all these struggles, never wavered, and played a key role in advancing every victory achieved, and left an indelible path in victory for those who are still able to continue to strive for freedom and justice. So what might Shope expect women to do today to build on her immense legacy? First, as a renowned freedom fighter, she expects women to pick up the spear and continue to strive for the full emancipation of women. She would place the fight against gender-based violence as a most urgent priority, requiring firm unity and strategic interventions within and between all women's organizations. Secondly, she would expect women to continue to be present in all sectors, occupying positions of leadership and steering impactful, well-run organizations and businesses. She would also urge attention to the continuing class, race, and gender disadvantages confronting rural women, particularly African rural women, and would urge the ANC Women's League to work with the ANC to craft and promote a robust strategy for rural development as one of its foremost contributions to a better South Africa. Comrades, we have not done well on rural development, and you as the Women's League can take up this particular difficult objective and make it work for a significant proportion of the population of our country. Third, legacy. She would surely urge the Women's League to work at developing a global women's movement to ensure mass responses to chauvinist assaults on the progressive advances women have made globally. You know what is happening to women in the United States of America. If we had a global women's movement, we would have stopped that assault. While there has been progress in women's rights, these often face challenges when conservative male agendas enjoy political prominence. And comrades, one of the lessons Shope would surely communicate to us: don't be complacent. Don't be complacent. The public in the United States of America is totally bemused as to what is happening to them because they became complacent about their democracy. Don't be complacent. The only way to combat these tendencies at wasting away at our advances is to ensure that women across the world unite And South African women, through the African National Congress Women's League, are among the most organized in the world, and they should lead this unity. Fourthly, Shope would expect South Africa to play a key role in advancing Africa's development agenda. We cannot be absent for Africa. We have to be there, we have to be leading. While our continent has made important strides, in socio-economic terms, comrades, we remain trapped in our colonial legacies and have failed to draw on the massive benefit that could accrue from a united Africa action. Just think for a moment of the impact that the formation of OPEC had for the Gulf states on oil pricing. Imagine if Africa, the most mineral-rich continent in the world, could form a united organization on mineral pricing and Africa itself determine the prices. Unity could achieve that. Fifthly, Shope would call on us as adult women to pass on the lessons and philosophy of equality to young women and to ensure that a solid foundation for continuing advances in equality is laid through intergenerational collaboration. Now, having suffered from being called an old woman by ANC members, I really hope we make value out of intergenerational cooperation, because older women have a great deal to offer, young women have a great deal to offer, and working together, we would be a strong force. Seventh, Shope would stress that to achieve these objectives, the African National Congress and its Women League and Youth League require selfless, committed leaders and members who place service to the people above all else. Comrades, this area is our biggest fault line. We have forgotten that we exist to serve the people, that we exist for the people. We need to bring that back by scrutinizing very carefully the leaders that we affirm, and by ensuring that if our leaders fail at their duty, whatever position they occupy, we will hold them to account. Eighth, Shope would surely stress that revolutionary morality and genuine renewal will secure victory for our leadership. We shouldn't be talking about renewal in conceptual terms. We must talk about it in practical terms. We must have branches that respect members, branches that meet regularly, branches that have political discussion, branches that allow everyone to become a member of the ANC. I believe she would say, it is possible, comrades, to arrest the slide. It is possible, comrades, to restore our lost glory. And we have lost our glory. Let's not pretend about it. We have lost it. The people are looking at us with disdain. The people are looking at us with horror and shame. So we have work to do to restore the glory. It's like, you know, that pot at home when you burnt the cabbage. If you use the sponge scourer, that cabbage blackness won't go away. But if you use the hard one, the copper wire, you'll get rid of it. We need that renewal. And 10th, surely, 9th, surely, she would urge, go back to the branch. Masithi amandla asebasebeni. It's not rhetoric. It's not iculo elimnandi. It is a reality. When you have strong branches, you have a strong ANC. And she would say, alongside those strong branches, let us have active members in service to the communities in which we organize. People would ask Comrade Jesse Duarte a question in regional meetings. Our clinic is not functioning. And she'd say, who do you expect to make it function, comrade? You are ANC, you live here. You are the leadership. There should not be a functioning clinic if there is an ANC branch. There should not be a non-functioning clinic if there's an ANC branch. There should not be a school without stationery if there's an ANC branch. There should not be an area which runs out of water and has crooks delivering water in trucks if there's an active ANC branch. There should not be criminals who steal electricity wiring if we have an ANC branch. If we know our communities as branch leaders and branch members, we know who the tsotsis are and we will call them out. It is the only way we can defeat them. Comrades, we're confronting very serious problems. All of them require a strong African National Congress. I just flew back from Cape Town today. In this week, we've had 4 gang-related murders, just this week, of children who are not members of gangs, but who got caught up in the line of fire. We have to do something about these criminals. We've got to learn from other countries on how the scourge was fought. All the problems we confront are not problems that have not occurred in other societies. We need to learn from other societies on how we deal with these difficult problems and ensure that we address them. Mashope would say, there is nothing worse in an organization or in a country than a leader who has no solution. We can't be asking someone else, how do we solve this? The people are looking to us to resolve it. So in final terms, what would Mashope say? I believe, comrades, that her legacy to us would simply be a luta continua. Amanda! Amanda! Thank you very much, comrades.